Hello and welcome to Beyond Today, the program that addresses the future of our community through conversations with people who are working today for a better tomorrow. I'm Ray Charmonti, your host for Beyond Today and Director of Comprehensive Planning and Community Design for the Hillsborough County City-County Planning Commission. My guests today are two leaders who are helping to shape the future of our community. Executive Director of the Hillsborough City-County Planning Commission, Bob Hunter, and Jan Smith, Chair of the Planning Commission. Welcome and thanks for being here today.
Thank you for inviting us.
The first question I have for you, Jan, is why is a shared vision important to our community?
A shared vision is the basis for us finding where we want to go in our future. It's our imagination. And I think our future and the vision of what we have for our future is only constrained by our own force and power of our imagination. And so what we can imagine for our community, if we work together, I believe we can achieve it. A perfect example of it is the streetcar that the mayor of Tampa is anxious to have in Ybor City. That was an idea of one individual, a man named Tom Rudell. And this was his vision of our future in Ybor and in downtown Tampa. And Tom created the Tampa Ybor City Street Railway Society, which has become a rather large group of people that believe this is a vision for this community that will serve us well into the future and perhaps even cause some redevelopment in Ybor and in downtown Tampa. The wonderful thing that has occurred in the last 2 years is that the mayor of Tampa, Dick Greco, is very supportive of this idea. In fact, it's now his #1 priority. And Sharon Dent, head of Heartline, has been working hard with Lucy Eyre from the Planning Commission to help us achieve that goal. They're working with the federal government, state and local governments to find a way to implement that vision. So a shared vision is people in a community working with other people in the community, their elected and appointed officials, to say what they want their community to be and to work toward achieving that goal.
I think that's a great answer, and that's a good example of bringing a vision down to actually seeing something occur. Bob, how is a vision created? The Planning Commission was involved in creating a vision, and I know that was a rather complicated thing to do, but what are the ingredients that go into creating a vision?
Well, you've got to have patience, and I think you also have to look at it long-term wise in that when you go about creating a vision, it's not going to be something that you go and prepare a report and get it done in 3 to 6 months. If it's truly a community vision, I think the effort will involve getting everyone in the community involved, and that means not only our elected officials, which I think certainly have to be involved, but it's also our community leaders from the private sector and the business community, as well as neighborhood groups and individuals. But it first requires, I think, putting forth some ideas about what a vision is, and then taking it to all areas of the community, and that is no small task. That's virtually a stage unto itself when you go throughout the community, maybe 30 or 40 meetings within a year or two's time frame, where people get a chance not only to react to maybe some rough ideas you've created for a vision, but then they get a chance to provide input on what they think their community should be. And that's really what it's about, what they think. From that, then you create, I think, the people that are interested. You create committees and task forces and do research, and you interview people, and you do research concerning what's happened in other communities too. And you'll eventually narrow it down to a number of subjects that really seem to pop out for your community. I think a good example would probably be as people plan a vacation, and it's really those of us on a day-to-day basis, as you plan to go to work, or as you go to work, you take a certain, you know you're going to be taking a certain route, and you plan to leave at a certain time. You've got to have in the back of your mind where you want to go before you can get there, and that's why it takes such a large amount of public participation, community action, before you can ever really start creating the vision of which becomes that of the community, I guess, is a quick answer to that.
That is a good answer. And one of the things that you didn't touch on that I just wanted to elaborate a little bit more was the decision to have young people involved in the vision. That was an important role. Maybe you could describe a little bit about what we did to involve the youth of the community.
As we prepared the vision several years ago, one important point, as you mentioned, was we felt, as we began working with adults, to get the youth involved. And so we essentially on a Saturday, through working with the school district, brought in school-age children, kids in high school, who had gone through an exercise first and then volunteered to participate on a Saturday. And we essentially brought them in, briefed them about a vision, and then essentially broke up into groups and let them discuss what they wanted for their vision. Interesting enough, they approached it, which some of us didn't expect, from their perspective of getting to school, and why don't we have a commuter system so that they can use it going to school and they can use it going shopping and their families can use it. It sort of took us by surprise, but had we thought about it, I think we would have found out that that's exactly what would have come out of that. And that really, I think, lent itself to us really trying to focus as a major effort. The transportation within this community is a part of the vision.
We've talked a lot about having a vision, but I think another area we need to touch upon is implementing a vision. Jan, maybe you can elaborate a little as to how do we implement a vision and who helps implement the vision of our community.
Implementing a vision involves the entire community. I think you need to have the community recognize that they want to achieve these goals, and you need to have their willingness to take the steps necessary to accomplish their goal. For instance, you would want to check the national trends, what is occurring in the world around us that would affect us here locally, and you need to consider that in your implementation. For instance, the computer industry and the media and how that impacts people's lives. And so I think it's very important when you're looking at implementing a vision that you look at what's happening around you, look at what's happening locally, look at the circumstances of our education, our social programs, look at the economy, the businesses, and then when you put that all together, you need to bring the entire community together to say they really want to accomplish a goal. And then you have to admit that you may have to make some sacrifices. There may be taxes to be paid. There may be incentives to be granted to encourage the type of development that you need to have take place in order to achieve your goal. And I think for us to follow our dream, we have to realize that it is going to need our support and our work to get there. It's not going to happen if we don't all pull together. And that's part of the shared vision. If we really share the vision of what this community can become, then we will all work together to achieve it. I think a perfect example is the water issue. In Hillsborough County, we are part of a tri-county water supply authority. So we are providing water to Pinellas County, to Hillsborough County, and to some extent receiving water from Pasco County, because we have become very much aware of the climatic conditions, development conditions. We have realized that pumping groundwater has created some problems. We've also realized that the need for water is one of the most important problems that we have to address. And this community has really responded to the need for water conservation. In fact, we are now using less water with a greater population than we had 5 years ago. And that's because the public really wants to have clean, safe drinking water, and they're willing to make some sacrifices to make sure that we have clean, safe drinking water for the entire community, and that we have a substantial portion of our water dedicated to the agricultural use. We've recognized how important our agricultural community is in Hillsborough County and the need to be sure that we have the water resources to continue that economy.
That's great. Bob, talking about downtown a little, which is different than water issues, just briefly, how do you think being aware of a vision has helped change the direction of downtown Tampa in the last couple of years?
I think downtown Tampa is probably the center place of this region, really. Whether we've had the vision or not, people look at downtown Tampa as the focal point, whether it's because of the high rises or not. But I think the people visualize downtown as the area that continues to receive the major efforts, the major focus. Mentioned the Ice Palace as one that has recently been built. Also the aquarium. People are creating the vision of which many people have talked about over about the past 10 or 15 years. When you look at downtown, you think of, a lot of people think primarily of business, but that's starting to evolve right now, and I think maybe, I'd like to think the vision document helped that from the standpoint that not only is it business, but others have talked about it, as does the vision document, of it being a diverse center. And I think the Ice Palace, I think the aquarium, the electric streetcar, all of these are starting to bring into bear that it's more than just a business center. It really should become where we as a community are proud of and want to participate in a center place. And by that we're bringing not only business but tourism into the downtown area also, and that's starting to connect up to Ybor City, and from Ybor City to downtown to Hyde Park and South Tampa and Bayshore. We're starting to see a link there that many of us can visualize. When I say visualize, it's not necessarily because there's a vision for it, even though I do think we need to have a more detailed development plan to link all of these up. It's because people are starting to see these surface, and they're starting to visualize how they can be connected. And to be connected, I guess I have to go back when I start talking about a vision. I think it's very important for all of us to have in mind where we want to get, as I said earlier, and the best way to do it is to create visual items as the community discusses the vision so that they can visualize what their community is. It's really how we as a community want to live our life here, as a place to live and work or as a place to enjoy living. Mm-hmm. And that's the key difference, I think. But I think the downtown is starting to become that, and I think we'll see over the next 5 to 10 years that really starting to surface in a three-dimensional way.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, we'll be back with more ideas for our future vision of our community in a few minutes. We're going to look at the Planning Commission's library services on our break. Thank you.
The Planning Commission Library Services. The Hillsborough County City-County Planning Commission Library could be the resource you are looking for. The Planning Commission's library is the depository of the Planning Commission's plans and programs, as well as those of the Tampa Urban Area Metropolitan Planning Organization and the Hillsborough River Interlocal Planning Board. As a special planning library, it maintains extensive technical information and specialized data that could be the answer to your questions. Examples of data in the library are population statistics, official U.S. Census reports, state and federal reports, environmental studies, and building permit activity reports. In addition, library products available in the Planning Commission Library include several other sources of information, such as maps, pamphlets, periodicals, and special subject files. A computer-based library assists in data collection and quick reference. The Planning Commission's library holds extensive information on a wide variety of topics that are easily located through a computer search capability. The Planning Commission Library is electronically linked to the Tampa-Hillsborough County Public Library System, providing expanded access to information on a county-wide computer network. A full-time information and research librarian can assist you or direct you to the resources you need. For more information about the Planning Commission's library services, write or stop by. The Planning Commission, Hillsborough County Center, 601 East Kennedy, Floor 18, Tampa, Florida 33602. Or for an appointment, call 272-5940.
Welcome back to Beyond Today. I'm your host, Ray Shermonti, and with me are Bob Hunter and Jan Smith. We've been discussing the importance of having a vision for the future of our community, but let's get a little more specific now. Mr. Hunter, I'd like to ask you, what are some of the consequences for not planning or having a shared vision in the future? We've talked about the positive aspects, but what are the aspects of not having a vision?
Well, in a way that's easy to respond to, but and I'll also say difficult to visualize. In that, and I use the example I gave earlier, if you're going on a vacation, if you don't know where you're going, you certainly won't know how to get there. A good example, I guess, would be take a look at how we as a community have developed, and I'll say that's almost without a vision, in that while we have continued to do planning and long-range planning, I don't know that we as a community have come together, and I speak not only of Tampa but all of Hillsborough County have come together to talk about where we want to go. I think if you'll think about it, if we want to get someplace, we've got to work together. And I keep going back to the term diversity, but we are truly a very, very diverse community. And we've got to find ways that we come together to create a vision of where we want to go. And that's that teamwork idea. I think some good examples, very quick examples, would be as we've continued to grow, this community has seen us develop and strip developments. That is not good as far as it goes about a truly good quality of life. We've continued to allow urban sprawl without the overall vision. I think if we come together as a community, some of that can be turned around, but it requires us working together as a team to create the vision, and then we can implement it, I guess is the best answer for you, Ray.
Okay. Jan, I have a question for you. What does a well-planned community look like from a citizen's perspective? Because I know you've been a citizen activist before you were on the Planning Commission. I mean, as a citizen, what is your dream for what a well-planned community looks like?
Well, because Hillsborough County is such a large county, 1,000 square miles, we have many different neighborhoods and communities. And so I don't think I can answer your question for my community. I would suspect that overall, a well-planned community would be one where people felt safe walking on their streets, or let's hope sidewalks, if it's an urban area. In a rural community, probably on the road right-of-way or on the shoulder of the road. But you have the differences there that make the design of a community different. But having the ability to be outside and be safe, to have access to good public schools, to good private schools, to have clean, safe drinking water in your faucets, to have a transportation system that can get you where you want to go, and to have the social services available to you in a reasonable, by you making a reasonable effort to get where you need to go. And so the big picture, I think, for the public is having the ability to access the things, the necessary parts of life. As far as how a community looks, one of the things that I love to do is travel around this country and in Europe and see how different areas have developed and how they have provided the amenities that give a community the quality of life that they want to achieve. In Lutz, for instance, we like and prefer an ex-urban sort of rural lifestyle. And so we don't have sidewalks and we don't have homes close together. And you may live next door to somebody that has a 5-acre tract with orange trees on it, or you may live next to a trailer in a $350,000 home. and that's part of that community, and it's what makes that community unique. If I lived in a community such as the newly developing communities, I would certainly hope that I would have tree-lined, shaded streets and sidewalks that I could be outside. I'd like to see us have our communities develop in such a way that if a child wanted to go to a park, the child could ride a bicycle or walk there. We, in the past, have designed our communities where to get to every element that you use as part of your daily life, you have to drive and ride in a car. I think that the commercial centers should be centered in the community so that people can walk, ride, drive, or take public transit to get where they want to go. So I would think that looking back, maybe it's back to our future, looking back, look at the communities that people love to visit, Charleston, Nantucket. We have made those livable cities that people enjoy being a part of. And I think we can do that here, and we'll have to do it in different sections of the county, the ways that different communities want it done. But I think, again, that's a choice and that's a vision for each individual community to establish.
I think that's a very desirable vision. Bob, you've come from another series of other cities to Tampa, so you've had a lot of experience working in other places. What specific parts of our community do you think are working well, or maybe can be the little pieces of examples of something positive that we can build upon here in Tampa?
I think, and speaking of just of Tampa and Hillsborough, I think we have a number of unique amenities that we need to build upon. We have the waterfront, and that's a very unique waterfront in that here it's essentially an undeveloped waterfront. Many other communities throughout the country have a developed waterfront, and it's gotten older and decayed, and you have to redevelop it. In Tampa, we have essentially undeveloped waterfront that we can mold the way we want to down around the Convention Center, Ybor Channel area. But we've got more than that. I think we've got some very, very strong neighborhoods now that are starting to be organized in the city of Tampa and in Hillsborough County that I think are going to grab hold and take some strides forward in the very near future about specific identities, special identities for each one of these neighborhoods. We also have the Hillsborough River and the other water systems really coming throughout Hillsborough County. But in Hillsborough County, we have environmentally sensitive areas that the community is moving to protect. And I think we're going to find that's an amenity too, that we would want to make part of our vision. I guess other than that, we have activity centers within this county. And when I speak of that, I mention Brandon, and I'll mention the West Shore area and Tampa Bay area and the university area and the downtown as major activity centers. Those two are the ingredients that go to creating a vision and are part of this community. Besides that, as we develop, we have to make sure, I think, that we preserve what this community is saying is important to it. And by doing that, I think we'll create the vision that everyone's looking for.
We've talked about a lot of visionary things, but maybe getting to specifics, Jan, what of the future projects that you hear about are things that are happening here? What are your favorite things, or what are the things that really make you kind of excited?
I think my favorite thing is what is happening to downtown Tampa. I came to school in Hillsborough County back in 1964, and Tampa then was the center of everything that took place. It was where the shopping was, it was where the entertainment was. It was an alive city. People lived close in, and there were people on the streets all the time. And as we allowed growth to move out into the county and into other areas, South County, Northwest Hillsborough, the Brandon area, downtown Tampa suffered. And when I am around other places in the United States, when people ask me where I'm from, I always say I'm from Lutz, a community north of Tampa. Tampa should be the focus. And I think with the streetcar that idea, and when it comes to fruition and the various activities that are going to be in downtown Tampa, I think we'll then see the return of some housing. I would like to see the return in downtown Tampa of housing for single people. Efficiency apartments, one-bedroom apartments, things like that, that the young people and the older people can all live together downtown, have close access to shopping, to government centers, to entertainment. And I think that's probably the most exciting thing I see on the horizon, everything that is taking place in downtown Tampa. And it's kind of like a rebirth of Tampa, and I really look forward to it.
That's great. Bob, I'm going to ask you the same question of projects you know that are occurring or have recently occurred. Which are your favorite projects? I know Planning Commission does design awards every year, and we get to look at a lot of interesting projects, but what are your favorites?
Some favorites, I guess, would be what's happening on Harbor Island. That's truly an urban character. And one of the items we mentioned in our vision document is a sense of place that Jan spoke to. I think we're starting to create a sense of place in the downtown area. Bayshore and the Bayshore Task Force have recently completed a report. Bayshore is becoming successful, virtually too successful, and that you've got a lot of cars now, but you have a lot of pedestrians, you have the people on rollerblades, but you also have the bicyclists too. But you know, we can make it work, but the connection from there all the way up through downtown, I think the housing that Jan spoke of is extremely important. You've got Harbor Island, you've got Davis Island, you've got residential communities. Residential areas are starting to be built on vacant land right now. I know where the school system is talking about bringing the educational complexes closer into downtown as they deal with magnet schools. I think we should look toward what's going to be happening along Ybor Channel and even in the port area, to where the shops, the residential areas, and even the artisan places, and we move up into Ybor City with the markets, festival area that Mayor Greco is looking into. We're starting to create a sense of place where we would want to go to as by taking our family or individually, perhaps during a business day, but we'd also want to take visitors there. And as the community starts to visualize it, go there, everything's happening there. Not that it doesn't happen in other places, but this is the place to be. You create that sense of place. I think it's starting to happen, and all these little pieces to the pie are starting to fit together. It'll take time, but I think it also requires creating the vision for that to start happening.
That's a good answer. There certainly is a lot of things to think about, and one thing that I would like to express to people is that they need to get involved in planning issues. Bob and Jan would both agree that citizens' involvement in planning is really what makes the community a better place. We've certainly raised some interesting ideas and issues for the future in our discussions today, and I'd like to thank my guests, Commissioner Jan Smith and Bob Hunter, for sharing their insights and experience with us. And thank you for tuning in. I hope you'll join us next month when we address Hillsborough County's cultural diversity, how it strengthens the whole community, and how we can embrace, celebrate, and use our diversity to make our community even better in the future. Thank you.